We live in a high-tech electronic age in which money can move at the flick of a switch or the merest wave of a contactless card. And yet we remain as far from being a cashless society as ever. And where there's cash, there's always temptation and danger. The danger that someone will use force or violence to get their hands on that cash. The people who replenish the UK's 60,000 or so ATMs stand in the front line in the battle to keep that cash in safe hands. With seven-figure cash losses and injuries to cash-in-transit crews on the up, it seemed in 2008 as though the battle against violent criminality was being lost. The entry of Lockpoint onto the field of battle in partnership with Tesco Bank that year, however, was to prove a turning point. Lockpoint worked with Tesco Bank to come up with a new type of barrier that could stand between the ATM cash cassettes and the criminal. The result was the Lockpoint Gryphon, which combines a near impenetrable wall of steel comprising 4 interlocking doors. State-of-the-art construction and sophisticated electronics ensure that no 2 cassette doors can be opened at the same time, so that even in the worst-case scenario, no more than 1 cash cassette is at risk. Each door can only be opened by using a smart code, and once closed, it can't be reopened until a preset time has elapsed. Taken together, these features render robbery no longer attractive or cost-effective for the criminal who needs to strike quickly and escape quickly with as much cash as possible. The Gryphon was developed entirely in the UK at Lockpoint's headquarters near Newcastle. Detailed design for manufacture was carried out in partnership with Lockpoint's key suppliers, and responsive engineering, part of the Reese Group, continues to build the special laminated steel doors at its impressive factory in Newcastle. The electronic components are assembled in Cramlington, Northumberland by Hindley Circuits. Such is the sophistication of the Lockpoint Gryphon that even if a gang makes off with an entire ATM after a ram raid, for example, it's highly unlikely that they'll get their hands on the cash. The doors of the Gryphon are made up of layers of different grades of steel with varying hardness and different melt points, making them resistant to drilling, cutting and oxyacetylene attack. Criminals gave up trying to get into this ATM using an oxyacetylene torch, and the Bank of England was able to replace the charred cash that was still inside. As in all walks of life, nothing stands still in the criminal world, and the threat posed by attacks on ATMs using injected explosive gas is now very much at the fore, with the current attack rate running at an average of 1 to 2 such attacks per week. With only modest modifications, the Lockpoint Gryphon has proved the only sensible defence against such attacks, and no correctly fitted and operated Gryphon has ever been breached in an explosion. All Gryphon models produced by Lockpoint now come with gas attack protection as standard. Tesco Bank went on to fit the Gryphon across its UK estate, while other major banks followed suit. Tesco cash-in-transit losses plummeted as a consequence, from a 7-figure sum to a few tens of thousands of pounds, with parallel reductions in injuries to cash-in-transit staff. Other banks and operators followed suit, and there are now more than 5,000 Gryphons in service across the UK. It can be retrofitted to the majority of ATMs produced by the leading manufacturers, including the latest 8 and 10 cassette machines. And because it's hydraulically jacked into place, there is no infringement of any manufacturer's warranties. Lockpoint analysis of all ATM attacks across the UK shows a clear correlation with ATMs that are not fitted with a Gryphon. Criminals are not, on the whole, stupid. They know which ATMs are vulnerable and plan their raids accordingly. That's why more and more banks and ATM estate operators are turning to the Gryphon.